All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to True Crime Loser. I hope you're doing well. So, today I'm going to talk about Jeffrey Epstein. What a guy. And he was arrested this past week flying into the Teterboro Airport in New Jersey. And for some reason, I picture him on his private plane, sitting there, half-heartedly looking at child porn, drinking seltzer out of a human skull, being like, how long until we land? This dude is disgusting. And it's past 2 days, I've just went down the whole Jeffrey Epstein rabbit hole, and I don't know if I recommend it. Vice did a little story on gang stalking maybe a year or two ago, and what gang stalking is people think that they're being followed, or people think, like this one guy in it, his name's Richard Bruce, he lives in LA, and he thinks that helicopters are harassing him by flying over him, but it's LA, and there's just helicopters everywhere, and so a lot of these people that think they're getting gang stalked or followed in their car, followed by helicopters, are pretty smart people, but it's just like a little type, like schizophrenic type brain thing. But I went on to follow Richard Bruce's YouTube channel, and I like him, and like I said, I think he's got some mental problems, but his whole thing is something like he thinks the whole system and government are run by reptilian, shapeshifter, pedophile, elite cultist type of thing, you know? And sometimes it's fun to just go down those rabbit holes and not totally buy into it, but just entertain it. And I like that type of stuff a little bit. But looking into the Jeffrey Epstein case, the farther you go, it's like, oh, I think Richard Bruce is right. I think maybe that the whole thing is run by pedophile, elite, billionaire, cultist freaks. So let's get into it. Real quick, so in 2005, just to catch people up that aren't following it. So first, Jeffrey Epstein is a billionaire that, at least according to what I've tried to find, no one really knows how he made all his money. Which is always a little bit, if you got $1 billion and you didn't, and no one knows where it came from, it's a little bit, but who knows? That could just be people that have no idea what they're talking about, and he did it through hedge fund, or I don't really understand that type of stuff that well, but so he's this billionaire, he lives in Florida, and he has a private island in the Virgin Islands and a private plane they called the Lolita Express, and he was known for just rubbing shoulders with every politician and celebrity, and he'd throw these parties on his island, and he'd give people a ride in his private jet everywhere. And problem is he's just an absolute pedophile, disgusting freak, and sex traffic, the whole nine yards. So anyway, he gets arrested in 2005 after years of, he had this whole setup where he would have women go and get young girls and groom them, and then they would be in a really desperate point in their life, like essentially homeless, or they would find people or young girls that were really vulnerable where like $200-300 could really change their life, and then be like, hey, there's this really cool guy named Jeffrey Epstein, and he loves massages, and for $300 you could go give him a massage. You need $300? Would that change your life? $300? So it's a really gross, just whole operation with a lot of help, and then they go over to his house, and he's there in his bathrobe, and it's just completely disgusting. But so after years of doing this, throwing these huge parties with underage girls and all this stuff, he gets arrested. And then at this point, it starts to kind of feel like the child, like the child molestation version of the Jussie Smollett case. So he gets arrested, and then the prosecutor, his name was Alex Acosta, along with others, just gave him the deal of a century. So same thing as Jussie Smollett. There was a non-prosecution agreement, and part of it was he agreed to go to jail for 13 months, but he only actually went to jail for 1 day a week, and he had a valet drive him there, and he had a private wing of the jail and a private cell, and so, I mean, it was... And he had to register as a sex offender, and I don't know, a few other things, but according to the 53-page indictment, it should have been a life in jail for sure type of thing. But everything kind of just disappears. And this is down in Florida, he was an absolute fixture in Florida. He was a socialite. And also, you can get real conspiracy theory type thing on this whole case, but also it's got to be noted is he has these huge parties, and politicians are there, and Hollywood people are there, so really powerful people. And so it seems as this goes that powerful people are making sure he doesn't get in too much trouble, so possibly they don't go down with him. All right, so anyway, he essentially gets off. And a few of the totally insane parts of the plea deal were only 13 months, but he didn't even really have to go, so it was like 50 days or something. It also gave him immunity to any federal charges, and also one of the craziest parts about it is it gave immunity to any possible co-conspirators. And so if you're the Alex Acosta, this worm that... Picture that you are a prosecutor down in Florida and you get this case, and, it's this high-profile guy, and he's a billionaire, and maybe you even went to one of his parties, or you're sitting there reading the 53-page affidavit, and I don't know, maybe you feel the pressure, or someone contacts you, or you want to have a political career down the line, or you want to get paid, or whatever it is, and so you allow this deal to go through, where like none of the co-conspirators of this child sex trafficking. So anyone that helped this guy, no charges. Think about Alex Acosta getting that whole thing done and being like, okay, this guy that is addicted to underage kids, and he's going to be out totally free in like a year or two. Think about Alex Acosta driving home that day, like how sleazy and just gross you got to feel. Like, well, driving like a Volvo. It's like, well, I let a pedophile essentially go. I have no respect as far as justice goes, but hey, maybe years later I'll get a job in politics that will fulfill my legacy. I would have more respect for Alex Acosta if he would have just came out and said, I kind of let him off because I, at one point, banged a kid on one of his islands. I would it's be like, all right, Alex. But to just let him worm out of it. All right, so anyway, so he just totally worms out of those charges, and no one else, a part of it, can be looked at, and the victims are just like, what the hell? And that's another crazy part of the non-prosecution agreement, is part of it was his victims didn't know about it. It was just like, it's kind of slid through. All right, so this is where the Benny Hill theme starts to play in my head, of just how corrupt and everything goes. Okay, so also part of his Jeffrey Epstein's agreement to get essentially totally off was they wanted information. This was right around when the big housing market collapsed and a bunch of banks went down and a bunch of bankers were charged with securities fraud or whatever it is. So they wanted Epstein as part of this amazing plea deal that no one has ever seen anything like it, as part of getting off after assaulting children, he had to testify against these two bankers from, like, what is it, Bear Stearns Bank, that were being investigated. It was a global investment bank that's being investigated for securities fraud. So it's like, if you testify against them, then so he testifies against the bankers, and then they were just acquitted. And then he essentially gets off. And then Alex Acosta, the prosecutor that gave him this deal of the century. You would think, where's he now? Was he cast out of society for helping an elite billionaire pedophile? Nope, has a great cabinet position currently as our labor secretary. And it just goes, the more you look into this, just the more connected and outrageous everything looks. And so anyway, all right, so this past week, to a lot of people's surprise, because he's looked invincible, he lands in Teterboro Airport in New Jersey and gets arrested. And the Southern District of New York are the ones that bring in the charges. I've heard through going down the rabbit hole that they are no joke, as in they wouldn't have brought the charges if they didn't have the goods. And then I tried to go there yesterday and actually make a video. So his mansion on the Upper East Side was raided yesterday. It was just a kind of a circus yesterday. So his mansion was raided. They found like CDs that says Young Girl Nudes 1. And it's like, why not just call it something else, Jeffrey? Just call it like Simon and Garfunkel Greatest Hits or something. He just like labeled it. So they found a bunch of CDs with underage girls or possibly underage girls and all this stuff. And so he's arrested. And now the questions that everybody has. Will he spill names of all of his elite, pedophile, global freak friends? You know, Clinton had been on his plane like 26 times. He and Trump were friends for a while or something, acquaintances down in Florida, bunch of Hollywood people, so I wonder, like, are all these people that are actually involved? You don't know who really is just his acquaintance or caught a ride on the plane, and then who went full on pedophile party with him. But I tend to think that there's no way he'll spill any of these names. That I do like the thought, though, of one of these like powerful politicians sitting at their beach house in the Hamptons as this all starts to go happen. They're sitting there kind of getting nervous, sweating like a pedophile in July. They're sitting there kind of just like thinking about it, and their wife's like, "Hey, are you okay?" It's like, yeah, I'm good. Is it hot in here? But I think that's just my fantasy. I doubt they're even worried. I bet they're just sitting there confidently like, yeah, well, I'm so connected. Nothing will happen to me. So I think a lot of people that have been following him for years, and he was part of the Pizzagate conspiracy and the whole thing. I think that a lot of people like that want it to just be this huge reveal of like, this is everybody that was on the island, and this is everybody, and all these freaks go down. But I'm just a lot more pessimistic than that. And then the question is, will he get off again? Or essentially, will he do life in jail, as he should? or will it be another insane deal the way it was before, where it's just sort of a little probation. And then I just want to talk about Alex Acosta a little bit more. And so this guy is a member of, this guy's has a cabinet position. And I tend to think that he should resign. It would be like, in my opinion, if Kim Fox in 10 years has a high-powered, powerful position after just letting the Smollett. It just makes it look like you traded getting a pedophile off for a political career. I mean, what a worm. Epstein is the grossest dude that I've looked into in a while, but just to help him is the biggest worm ever. And then Acosta in a press obviously he's defending his decision to. And so I watched the big press conference that he did, and it's like, how is he going to justify the deal? That there's such weird parts of it, like no co-conspirators can be looked at or something. And it's like, how is he going to spin it? And how is he going to spin it? He is the hero. He was like, yeah, everybody else that was working on the case was just going to let him walk, which I think could probably be true. He's this fixture socialite. I've also heard that Epstein was really good about getting dirt on people. So, he'd have someone powerful. This could be just conspiracy theory stuff. But he would, someone powerful would be on his plane, and he's a big drinker, so he'd get people drunk. So, sitting on his plane, he's like, hey, come to my island. We'll have a good time. I'll show you the time of your life. Come on. And so you're sitting there on the plane, drinking, bourbon on the rocks or something, getting drunk. Like, this private plane thing, I'm good at this. And then all of a sudden, there's like girls, in their underwear, or and there's pictures being taken. And then all of a sudden, it's like, hey, I got pictures. All of a sudden, there's like a picture of you with, there's a girl right here. I just heard he was good at, which could just be totally conspiracy theory nonsense, but I heard he was good at getting people to just be like, I guess I am a part of this now, and I have to, before they knew it, you're drunk, and then you're at this party, and then all of a sudden there's a picture, and you're like, oh, God, so who knows if that's true, but I guess now it's just a waiting thing. It's like, what is going to happen to this guy? My prediction, I'm very pessimistic that anyone that helped him, or any of the powerful weirdos that went to all these parties with him and helped him traffic young people, I'm pretty pessimistic that any of those people have to answer for it, but I don't know, I just have the feeling this is the end for Epstein, and this one will stick, and he'll get life, and probably some type of privileged life where he has his own wing of the prison, and it's not even connected to the prison, and it's just his mansion in the Hamptons. Something like that, but I hope he goes down. It's I don't even know if I would recommend doing a deep dive into this case. For the past 2 days, it's all I've done is look into it, and I feel awful. And it's like a beautiful summer day. My birthday's tomorrow. I turn 33 tomorrow, and same age as Chris Watts. Pretty easy to remember. I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I trying to figure out some elitist pedophile freak ring? It's like, it's summer. I'm just a dude. I got a little YouTube channel and a cat named Little T. I'm not going to be able to solve this. I don't know if it just can rot your brain trying to get to the bottom of stuff like this. But anyway, I'm going to cut it off there. Yeah, I hope you guys are doing well. And I had a thing I wanted to do for the show tomorrow about these two twins I went to high school with. Ended up just having this crazy story after we graduated where, like, their brother was killed by a cop in the doorway of his house, and then these two twins that I was really good friends with kind of downward spiraled from there, and part of the story, like a plane ends up attempting to be stolen. Like it's this nut story, and it would be only, only on my channel. And but I don't remember a lot of it, certain parts of it. So I'm trying to get a hold of one of my friends. I've been this whole week. I thought I would have it ready for my big birthday episode. Talk about Grand Junction. Talk about an exclusive story, all that stuff. But it's just not ready. I haven't been able to talk to my buddy Patrick, that I think hopefully remembers parts of it better than I do. But anyway, I'll try to figure out something tomorrow. I'd like to do a birthday episode, but I got to push off that story. But anyway, like I said, hope you guys are having a good week. Love you all. True Crime Loser out. Why? Stiving why?